Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday night with Turanga Ranch. I am very excited to be here tonight. We have a new presentation to share. So, of course, I'm excited about that. That's going to be super fun. What else? Oh, I kind of wanted to let everybody know about something that's going on right now that's super cool. So I don't know if you have heard about the Run, Walk, Ride for Wildlife Research, right? Well, let me just tell you. This is the super cool t-shirt that you get. And this is the super duper beautiful, amazing medal that comes with this. So this is P22 and he lives in Griffith Park. And of course, this year we can't do a race in person, but we can do a race virtually. And my family and I just did it last weekend. We did a 5K, but you could do a 10K or whatever you want. These are all the awesome sponsors of this super cool event, and it's going through the 14th, so you can still register. You can still bring your family out for some exercise and for a good cause, right? So tonight I'm really excited to be bringing you a new presentation of ours. Usually we're talking about the fuzzy things like the mountain lions or the raccoons or the coyotes, but tonight we're talking about something smaller. We're talking about pollinators. And, the thing is, it's like we don't start thinking about pollinators until spring, right? The flowers show up and we're like, oh, yeah, pollinators. And then we want to rush over to Home Depot or Lowe's and pick up some flowering plants and call it a day. But there are some things we can think about now as it starts to rain here in Southern California, stuff that will help us be ready for when the pollinators join us in the spring, right? Of course, it's not like they ever really leave us, but it is great to be able to use winter as a time to prepare for these pollinators. And I always think of I personally think of pollinators in wintertime because of the monarchs that winter at Pismo Beach, which is, pretty local for us here. And I encourage you to check that out this year also. You still can. Okay, so what is next here? Oh, I'm going to share my screen. Get going with my presentation. All right, so here we are. And if you have questions as we go or anything comes up for you, please put it in the chat and we'll get to it when I'm done sharing my slides. So we're preparing for pollinators, and this particular pollinator is a monarch. But there are so many other pollinators, right, that that share our space here. We've got the painted lady, and we've got the monarch, and we've got the little skipper, and we've got native bees and native moths and tiger swallowtails and all kinds of cool stuff, right? All kinds of super duper cool stuff. And then what's here? Birds. Who else pollinates, right? Certainly insects pollinate, and also birds pollinate. And we've got all kinds of birds here. We've got a house finch, we've got a mockingbird, and a scrub jay, and a towhee, and a hummingbird, and an oriole. And some of these are not nectar drinkers, right? They're insect eaters, but they are often finding insects right around flowers or where pollen exists that can be spread. So even birds that are insect eaters are often pollinating as well. And then, of course, You know who my personal favorite pollinator is. Yes, you do. It is the little flying mammal, the bat. And these top two pictures here are just those are sort of, what bats look like at night when they're pollinating. And this one down in the left corner is actually a little fruit bat. And I just wanted you to look at his face because he's got a cute little mammal face that looks like a cute little mammal face. And then look at this guy who seems to be emerging from this flower here like Oscar the Grouch, right? And he's all covered in pollen. But look at his face. That's the face of an echolocating insectivore, right? So now whenever you see a picture of a bat, you will know right away if it's got a sweet little face, like a regular mammal that you're used to seeing, that's probably a fruit-eating bat. If it's got an all wrinkly face that's made for echolocation, he's probably an insectivore. And of course, if you're here in Southern California, you know he's an insectivore. And he's tiny. So watering, we're talking about pollinators, we're talking about watering. And water is a big deal here in Southern California. Something like 85% of our water is actually imported from other places. We have 3 aqueducts that help feed the city of Los Angeles. And it is really important to us to be good stewards of that water in every possible way. And tonight I'm going to help you figure out some of those ways, because you are not going to have pollinators where you don't have water. So we need to step away from our green lawns, but you already know that. We need to think about drip systems. We need to think about bumpy landscapes. No more of these beautifully rounded green lawns, right? And how can we, what ways can we think of to keep moisture that comes in the form of rain, especially, on our lawn? When we watch that water rush down our street, what could we do to help keep some of that water on our lawn, filtering down to the local aquifer and staying local instead of rushing out to the ocean, right? We can do this. So choosing plants that are drought resistant and native are really important in saving water, because you may need a drip system and you may not need any irrigation at all, depending on what kind of plants you put in and where you're putting them. So these are some pictures of streets nearby. This is that flat lawn that I'm talking about. This is flat lawn. When the water rushes down this street, it rushes. It doesn't get picked up anywhere and it doesn't get soaked in anybody's lawn. It literally rushes down the hill and into the storm drain. And here are some pictures. When people think native, sometimes they think, well, it's going to look all dead, or it's not going to be as fancy as I would like it to look. But these are 2 native lawns, and they are really quite colorful and very beautiful. And it's up to you to choose plants that will flower when you want them to flower, right? You can do that. And you can also provide water for pollinators. Make sure it's shallow and clean to keep other wildlife away. You can empty it at night. So at this point, I'm going to do something fun, and I'm going to share with you from my new Okio Cam. This is a pollinator waterer, right? So I'm going to bring it a little closer. It's very shallow. It has some rocks. I just used an old bottom of a planter that I had sitting outside. If you're not like me and you don't have junk sitting around your yard, you can always go to the dollar store and pick up something, a little a shallow dish and some rocks, and just put in some water, just like that. And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. All right. And this is how cool it looks when there are bees using it. And this helps them because they're not going to drown in this water. So you may have a dog waterer out, you may have a pond, you may have a swimming pool, but water that's in large quantities like that is really hard for insects to access. And here are some pictures of stacking these similar rocks in a pond or in a bird waterer. So you can just add rocks to any water feature that you already have. And this helps it so that little lizards and stuff won't drown in there. They always have a way out. And the insects have a place to get water. Trimming. I don't know why are people trimming always in the spring? I don't know why. Is it maybe we've been holed up in our houses all winter and now we're like, oh, it's time to go outside. And as soon as we go outside, we realize all the things that have grown over the winter and now we need to trim. The problem with that is there are bird nests in the spring. So if you want to trim, now is the time to trim. Birds will be nesting in the spring and even in the summer. So use fall and winter to trim your bushes and trees. And if you want to plant new plants, this is the best time of year to do it because it's going to be raining. And that's so good for plants to stay healthy. It's way better than just being watered. They appreciate actual rain. We're also going to show some pictures that involve hand trimming. Hand trimming can make the difference in your yard about your pollinators. I want you to imagine what it would be like to be sitting at your dining room table and having a fan blow air at you at, between 50 and 100 miles an hour, and your food is blowing all around and your stuff is blowing all around and you're barely able to hold on to your chair, right? Some of us are doing this in our gardens and our lawns every week with those blowers. And I'm going to tell you right now, your neighbors don't love it either. So if you are able to hand trim, even though you might have a big yard, you are doing pollinators a big favor, and birds, truly. Because even with bird nests, if you're hand trimming, you are far more likely to find the bird nest and be able to give it space than you are if you're using an electric trimmer. You're going to get there and it's going to be too late by the time you realize there's a bird nest there. So just things to keep in mind. So again, if you can do that trimming now, then all winter your stuff can grow back in and be beautiful and be ready for spring. And then you don't have to be fighting that battle in the spring, and you don't have to worry about whether there's a bird nest or not, right? So bushes, trees, hand tools, so many great hand tools. And also, I live in an area where we have a place called Apers, but before you get tree trimming done by a professional, find out how they feel about birds. What are their policy? Do they trim in the spring? If they do they take special consideration? They should. All tree trimmers know that birds live in trees and they want to work in the spring. So you need to figure out with them how they deal with that. Here's some pictures of some bird nests, baby birds. That's what it'll look like in the middle of your bushes. And sometimes you don't see it till you're trimming. And again, what kind of plants? Do we want to go to Home Depot or Lowe's, or do we want to plant things that want to grow here? Things that we might otherwise call weeds. What can I do? What if I already have some exotic plants here? What if I want to add some natives? Or what if I want to get rid of my lawn? Remember that natives grow well where they're meant to be. And you can choose what plants will work best in your yard based on what kind of soil, because even though we are local, we still have a variety of soil types in our local area and different plants that do better in different areas, right? And also sunlight. And we are so lucky to have the Theodore Payne Foundation nearby, and they have guides online as well as amazing volunteers and people who work there that can totally help you figure out which plants might be best for your situation. And then some other things you can keep in mind are, what kinds of songbirds would you like to attract? What colors do you like? What textures would accent your landscaping? This is the hummingbird sage, and it is my personal favorite. I love this plant. This one is from my yard, and as the name implies, these beautiful trumpet-like flowers will attract little hummingbirds as well as all kinds of other pollinators. And if these leaves smell unbelievably delicious, it's so sagey and yummy. And I've heard you can even make a tea from it. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, butterflies love this one as well. And then there's others. Oh my goodness. Like, I can get so excited about the plants that fill the chaparral locally. You've got up here in the corner black sage. It's flowering there, little tiny flowers. In the middle here, you've got white sage. That's what they smudge with. These things smell crazy good. Up there on the right, you've got slender sunflower. Pollinators love those. Down here, you've got California buckwheat, always a favorite. It doesn't matter if it's blooming or not. It's so beautiful. And so many insects love that. And then down here, the ceanothus, or the California lilac. Everybody loves those. So, you know, it doesn't have to be ugly. It can be beautiful, actually. Pesticide. Just, you know, just don't. Especially if you're planting natives, you won't need it as much. And so don't use it. It's poison, and it's not good for the water table, and it's not good for our pets. And, you know, it's just not good. You can also make sure that the soil that you're getting doesn't have chemicals already in it. A lot of the soils do. So yeah, and then of course, if you're using the soil that's already on your property, that's the best. And especially if you're planting natives, right? They just go together. And when we think about pesticides, we're like, oh, well, I don't ever use pesticides. That's a crazy name for, you know, people in big ag who are out there wearing hazmat suits, you know, and dusting entire fields, right? But that isn't what it always looks like, guys. Sometimes it just looks like this, right? It's cute little gloves and cute little spray containers, or the home exterminator kit there, you know, and it could be products like Raid or Ortho or Seven, or there's others too, you know, but these guys are easily found in so many stores, and because they're brightly colored, you know, people are like, but it's poison, and you have pets, or maybe you have outdoor animals, or maybe you have kids that play outside, or maybe you care about wildlife. And then there's this, and we all know, just don't do it. If you really need to get rid of something that's growing in, that's invading, you can use vinegar, right? In most cases. If you feel like you've gone to this spot, call a professional. Rain barrels and rain gardens. This is one of my favorite things to talk about. So one thing that's kind of cool is that new construction and remodels in the LA area these days require rain barrels. Yeah, kind of cool. And so there's a variety of things you can do with this, right? You can use rain chains. You can use gutters. This particular situation here, I don't love. I like that the chain is directing the water away from the house. I don't know if this bucket is somehow irrigating next to the house. That would be kind of cool. Or if there were a garden here that could be irrigated by that, rather than it just going into a bucket of rocks, right? Unless it stays nice and shallow, then it could be like a little pollinator feeder, wouldn't it? Little pollinator waterer. So anyway, and then, so this is a little bit of a rain barrel right here. This is going to catch rain that could be used later. And usually if it is a rain barrel, it'll have a faucet on the bottom of it so that it can be drained, because you wouldn't want standing water. And here are some more pictures of rain barrels. The ones on the left are your standard ones. You can find those locally or even online, and they're relatively cheap. Then they have some prettier ones that look all plantery that you can integrate into your landscape. Or you can be artsy and have some fun and paint them. That's a super fun project to do with the family or a community group when it's not the pandemic. Down here is another artsy one. You know, they don't mind showing it off, and they made it look pretty. And then this one down here on the bottom right is not as pretty. It's very utilitarian, but it's also very big. That's probably 7 feet tall and at least 500 gallons, I want to say. So yeah, there are all kinds of rain barrel options available these days. And then they get mounted, right? So you don't just set them on the ground. If they're the smaller ones, you're going to put them on a little wooden stool or on some cinder blocks, as these two are here. And you can see the tops of them have gutters that direct the water from the roof directly into the rain barrel. And then they've got spigots on the bottom where you can attach a hose, or depending on if it's right in the garden already, you can just open it up and drain it right there. Whatever works. This one, it looks like it drains right there. This one, I believe, has a hose. And this one has a hose. Here's an example of a rain garden. This is from Washington, but I liked the diagram. You know, you can see the cutout from the side. So it's a layered approach. They've got soil mix, they've got sand, they've got a layer of mulch, and they've got a ponding area. And the water's staying away from the house, but it's not all flowing out onto the street. And then you can see it collects in that rain garden, and then it seeps down into the local water table. And here are more diagrams that show the same thing in different ways. And this also goes to show that there are a variety of resources for this online. So my hope is that tonight I will pique your interest and you will continue and do further research for what works for your situation. I love these, right? We all know what that water looks like when it's racing down the street to the storm drain. These are amazing ways right here. This property is going to be a little bit lower so that the water can pool in there. And then you can plant your natives and have a watering system that is perfect for winter. Again, this or this. Pretty clear to me. And here again, here's some of those street drains. The water, LA has done an amazing job of pushing the water out to the ocean. We keep it away from our houses because we don't want floods. We've gotten very good at that. And we push it down the street because we don't want floods on our street. So we get it off, we get it away from us. But then as soon as it's away from us, it's on its way out to the ocean and it's lost to the water table. It's not in this water table anymore. So also bioswales. Now bioswales are similar to rain gardens, but bioswales are more about cleaning the water, whereas rain gardens are more about capturing rainwater. But it's a very similar idea and very similar, but in a little different placement too. I'll show you what I mean. So again, you can create a bioswale on the rounded lawn of a home. You can lessen runoff and filter water. Keeping water in the LA aquifer is good for everyone. And also bioswales are great for the roadside. And I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute of roadside bioswales. And I know once you see them, you'll be like, oh, I've seen them. Oh, they're part of all the new construction at the commercial places. When I show you the pictures, you'll be like, yep, yep, yep. So basically, when you're out on the walk, you only see the top part of it. You only see that there are some trees and some dirt. But if you've got a bioswale going on under there, you've got gravel, you've got pipe, you've got mulch going, and you've got basically a filtration system. So this water is being filtered as it heads down into the aquifer. And again, it's coming off the street, it's coming off the sidewalk. So it's still helping with that flooding in the important way that we want it to. These are bioswales. And you know, if you can just imagine what this area looked like before they were there, right? And the other great thing about especially these particular bioswales that you're looking at is they are breaking up the concrete. So when we pave big areas, we make the ground, the ground under it cannot absorb any of the water that falls when it rains. So if you sort of puncture holes in the pavement in intervals, whenever you can, wherever you can, you're creating pockets where water can go down into the earth right there. One way you can do that in your house is right in your driveway. A driveway is a perfect example of too much pavement in one spot. And you can break that driveway up with pavers or places where there's gravel. And it can be really cool. I need to incorporate that into this slideshow, some cool pictures of the way that looks. But basically, pavement isn't good for the planet. And, you know, we can do our own mitigation of that by adding, you know, adding places where the water can get back down to the water table. And this one, this is a bioswale, but it also has a curb cut. It is cut into the curb there so that that rushing water, instead of going down the street into the storm drain, goes into this rain garden. So my next order of business is finding out if this is legal in Los Angeles, or if I might need to get a permit. I don't know. I'm going to find out, but I would like to do this. And speaking of water for pollinators, there's gray water alternatives. So if this isn't something that's occurred to you, maybe it's not something that would work for you, but it's certainly worth knowing about and thinking about. There, you know, you use water, we all use water in our homes all day long. We have showers and we have washing machines and we wash our hands and we cook and we are using water all day long. And then that water just gets rushed into the sewage system basically. But there are some basic ways that you can do a little bit of replumbing, use a different soap, and have a whole bunch of water going right back into your own local water table. And so this is what some of that plumbing looks like. And we have a local group called Greywater Corps that can help with this. It's a local nonprofit, and I got some great information from them. And this is what, these are just some of the examples of the amazing gardens that people have created, including food, right, with the gray water. When it's done correctly, you can grow an edible garden with it. Oops, sorry. Okay, and so where did I get my information, and who can help you if you think this is cool and you want to do more of this, right? The River Project has a program called Water LA, and that is a super cool thing. I don't know what they're doing during the pandemic, but I know that they were doing a neighborhood program where they would start with one neighbor and a bunch of neighbors would work in that lawn and learn the principles of breaking up the pavement and adding in rain gardens and rain barrels and all Greywater. Well, Greywater Corps joined them for the videos I was watching. And just a different way of looking at using the area around your home. And Greywater Corps is also local to Los Angeles. And the Theodore Payne Foundation is also local. And there are also other native plant nurseries that you can find in your area if you're not in the Northeast Valley. So water is life. Keep the water in the local water table, plant natives, and you are encouraging those pollinators. And upcoming on YouTube, Tuesdays at 4, we do a kids program. Wednesdays at 7, we do general program, and you can just look it up. You're here right now, so you know where it is. If you like this, please subscribe and like the video because that helps us. And Oh my goodness, I had a calendar here of what I was talking about next week. Is this where it is? This is where it is. All right, so this was prepping for pollinators, but I have been so excited about learning about water in Los Angeles. I took a trip to the Salton Sea recently, and I have such a cool set of slides to show you and to talk about a really interesting story. And I cannot wait to share that with you next week. So thank you for joining me tonight. Let me stop my share and see if there's any questions in the chat. Any questions? No, I don't see any right now. Well, if you're still there and if you do have a question, you can go ahead and ask it now. And if not, you can go check out Water LA and Greywater Corps and Theodore Payne and have some fun and look forward to our other programs. We are keeping on doing this every week, and we love to spend time with you. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we'll see you soon.